equal wages, while women have no equal chances of occupying the same positions as men do currently. Let us analyze together this scenario. If the poorer women cannot get vacancies in daycare units to leave their children in safe hands after the maternity leave ends, if the companies wish to hire men because the time that the mother's maternity leave is greater than the leave that men receive. And also, the most recent data regarding the caregiving says that women dedicate twice as much time than men in the housework, the household chores. We cannot have equal salaries if we don't have policies that tackle all of these issues. So, I believe not. Therefore, my speech today is in the sense of restating the strong importance of building public policies that are wide, transversal, have as a goal to have structural transformations in the way that men and women split their unpaid workload and also caregiving work, which is one that provides the most impact in the possibility of both genders to have access to the same work opportunities. Without tackling this issue, the result is what we see. Millions of women are in poverty situations in the same country in which currently we have almost half of the homes which are led by women. This is the reason why we, as Brazilian parliamentarians, make it a priority in the work that we do in the parliament to have a legislative framework regarding the caregiving aspects, with two groups of parliamentarians from several different political parties which are allotted for this challenge. Among those work groups, we work in the sense of more equal leaves, free caregiving, the raising of awareness for the cultures that must be faced so that we can fight the gender inequalities. Unfortunately, this sort of topic is still, in a general term, a priority only for the parliamentarians, which are women, and not for the entire parliament. And if we consider that we are underrepresented in the national politics, that limits our capacity of our ability to influence public policies and also to influence which should be the priority agenda for the government's work. In this unfavorable scenario, the policies for caregiving, which have been showing fundamental for fighting the inequalities that affect specifically women, are not determined as a priority for the allocation of public resources year after year of mandates. This must be changed immediately. We need to have more women in politics so that we can ensure more public policies for women. But we also need for our agendas to be considered as a priority for everyone who does politics, regardless of their gender. So to be here today in this historical meeting is an excellent opportunity for us to highlight the importance of our agenda. Our work together can make it so that future generations will live in a world in which the gender equality is no longer just an exception, but only the norm. This is the dream of the millions of women which we represent, and it's for them which we are making our actions. I thank you for being here, and thank you for your commitment to be in this journey with us. Thank you very much. Now I invite to use the word, to use the floor, this revolutionary woman, which is our chairwoman of the Chamber of Deputies of Mexico, Ms. Marcela Guerra Castillo.
Presidenta Procuradora, honorable Asamblea, desde nuestros parlamentos debemos de impulsar la inclusión de las mujeres en todos los procesos, y en este caso el proceso económico y el proceso de producción. Si logramos mediante leyes y acciones legislativas que esto se logre, se va a contribuir al Producto Interno Bruto de nuestros países, se genera la autonomía económica, aumenta la autoestima, se genera riqueza, especialmente en el hogar, y se contribuye también a la riqueza con la fuerza laboral de las mujeres a nuestros países. El más trabajo significa más ingresos. Cuando las
incomes.
mujeres van
When women
aumentando su capacidad laboral, también se
raise
enfrentan al
their
fenómeno de la
work
violencia laboral.
capability,
Tenemos
they
que ser muy
also
claras a la hora
face the
de
challenge
diseñar o de
of
reformar
work
leyes para
violence.
combatir
So we
este
need to
mal de
be
la
very,
violencia
very
laboral.
clear in order to
Nosotros en México
eradicate
tenemos, por supuesto,
this
muchas
evil
leyes,
thing.
la Ley
In
Federal
Mexico,
para la
we
igualdad
have
entre
so
hombres y
many
mujeres,
rules.
tenemos leyes diferentes para
Different
vivir
rules
una vida libre
to
de
live
violencia
a free,
en cualquier
a life
expresión de
free of
violencia
violence.
contra las mujeres y tienen efectos
And this
punitivos
law
en nuestros
have
códigos penales.
punishment
Pero
effects
yo
in
les
our
quiero decir algo muy
codes.
importante
But
de
I
lo
want
que
to
hemos
tell you
tomado de
something very
algunos
important
países
that we
y
have
que
learned
ha
from different
surtido un gran
countries
efecto
and that
para
has had a
impulsar la
great
productividad
effect
de las mujeres.
in women's
Primero, antes
productivity.
que todo,
First of
debemos
all,
de seguir
we must
insistiendo
continue insistent
en políticas
in
para la igualdad salarial
policies for
por trabajo
equal
igual.
salaries for the
Insistiendo en
same
eliminar
jobs.
la
We need to
discriminación, no solo con las
eradicate
leyes, sino hacer
discrimination,
valer
not
la
only
ley.
with the law, but in
Invertir en
practice.
programas
We
de
need to
educación
invest
y capacitación
into
laboral y de
education
promoción al
programs
empleo. Y aquí quiero hacer
and
un
employment.
énfasis. Yo soy
And I
del
want to
estado
put
de
an
Nuevo León,
emphasis to
es un
it.
estado
I am from a
altamente
state
productivo,
that is a very productive
tiene,
state.
es una fuerza industrial
It
tremenda.
has a very
Y nosotros
strong
hemos
industrial
adoptado
force, and we
el
have
programa
adopted
alemán,
the
el programa de
German
producción dual,
production
que,
program.
hemos aprendido de este
Program
y
dual.
ha
We have
contribuido
learned from this
muchísimo
program,
al
and it has
trabajo bien
contributed
remunerado para
to
las mujeres. El trabajo dual
good
significa
salaries
que
for
mediante
women.
tú estás estudiando
While you are
en una escuela
studying
técnica
in a
vocacional,
technical school,
estás trabajando
you
al
are
mismo
also
tiempo,
working at the same
capacitándote
time.
para el
You are
trabajo.
learning
Los
in
alemanes,
order
y
to do that
felicito aquí
job.
a mis compañeras
Germans,
alemanas que
and I
conocen muy
congratulate
bien
the
este tema,
Germans that
lo
know
han
that
hecho muy bien y
topic
han
so
servido
well,
de modelo
have been an example for
para
us.
poder generar una
So we can
mujeres, en este caso estamos hablando de mujeres y hombres
encourage
también, pero
women
mujeres trabajadoras altamente
who work
calificadas y con una
and
gran
are
fuerza.
very
Eso es
qualified.
importante porque
That's very
contribuye
important because it
ampliamente al
contributes
empoderamiento
widely
económico de
to
las
women
mujeres.
empowerment.
Promover también la
To
educación
promote
financiera. Muy
financial
importante
education
educar
is
a
super
todas
important.
las mujeres en materia
It's
financiera.
essential to
Y,
teach
por
them
supuesto, la
in
inclusión
finances and
financiera
also
que
into
ofrece a las
the
mujeres medios de acceso a
financial
diversos
inclusion
productos
that allows
y
them to have
servicios.
access to
El
different
acceso al
goods
crédito
and
es
services.
importantísimo
The
para aquellas
access to
mujeres que no
credits
pueden salir a
is super
trabajar
important for
porque
women
tienen
who cannot
familia,
go out
porque
to
tienen,
work because
hijos
they
que
need to take
criar,
care
pues
of
también
home.
Generar una especie de
To
grandes
generate
créditos para las
big
emprendedoras
credits
pequeñas
for
y
the
medianas
entrepreneurs.
empresas. Hay grandes ejemplos
There
de
are
éxito
big
en México y
examples of
seguramente en todos los
success
países
in
del mundo.
Mexico and all around the world.
Como ya lo dije, adoptamos
As
el
I
modelo
already
alemán en
said,
Nuevo León,
we
y nos ha dado
adopted the
grandes
German
resultados
model,
porque hemos
New
podido,
Orleans,
formar
and
generaciones
it has been
completas de
wonderful
mujeres
because
con
we
alta
have been able to
capacidad laboral. Quiero
train
comentar que
women
también
with a
por
big
parte de Corea
work
hemos
capability.
tomado en Nuevo
In
León
Korea,
también,
we also
el horario flexible que Corea
adopted the
implementa
flexible
desde el año
work
2012.
hours
Y hace rato yo platicando con una colega de
that
Corea,
is
se lo
practiced
dije,
in Korea. And I
porque
told
el
my
modelo
colleague
flexible
from
de horario les
Korea,
permite a las mujeres
the
que están criando
flexible
a sus hijos presentarse,
work hours
una
allow
hora
women who
más
are
tarde
raising
en el
kids
trabajo
to
para
be
poder,
an hour later
pues terminar
to
con las
their
tareas del hogar. Y es ahí
workplaces
donde
so they are able
la
to
parte
finish
de
the
los
home
cuidados
chores.
también tiene que entrar en el debate.
That's why it's so
Y eso de los
important,
cuidados
the
se lo voy a dejar a mi
fostering
compañera
part.
Amalia García, porque va a
And I'm
ahondar
going to
en ese
leave
tema.
that to
Pero
my
yo
mate,
les quiero
Amalia
decir
Garcias.
que
But
la
I want to
productividad
tell you
es
that
lo que genera riqueza.
productivity generates
Y para ser más
goods.
productivas tenemos que
And
estar
in
más
order to be
capacitadas. Así que
productive, we
hagámoslo
need to be
conducente
well
desde
trained.
nuestros parlamentos.
So
Es cuanto
since
y
our
las felicito a
parliaments,
todas.
that's our duty. I congratulate you all. Thank you so much.
Obrigada, presidente Marcela.
Thank you, President Marcela.
Eu convido a República
I
da
want to
Coreia
invite the Republic of
para fazer
Korea
uso da palavra.
to use the word now, to take the floor.
존경하는 각국 대표단 여러분 안녕하십니까? 대한민국 국회의원 임미애입니다. 어제부터 계속된 각국 대표들의 발언을 들으며 여성의 정치 참여 확대를 위해 전 세계에서 목소리를 내고 싸운 여성 지도자들께 진심으로 존경의 마음을 드립니다.
who have been advocating and fighting for the expansion of women's political participation. I feel a deep sense of solidarity and am honored to be part of this gathering. On September 25, 2015, the international community adopted the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. It was based on the recognition that eliminating women's poverty is one of the greatest global challenges for achieving sustainable development. Despite significant legislative and policy efforts by parliaments and governments worldwide, including Korea, there still are so many women in poverty suffering from discrimination. Therefore, our ongoing attention and efforts are essential. Before elected to the National Assembly, I was a farmer, a female farmer. In Korea, women have made significant strides in wider sectors, and enterprises led by women have strengthened their roles and presence in the economy. However, institutional support for female farmers remains very lacking. More than half of the nation's farmers are women, but 50% of these women still see themselves as secondary to their husbands, enduring longer and harder labor. In addition, female farmers' participation rate in the national pension, a social safety net, is very low. Consequently, when they are aged and cannot work, most of them face illness and poverty. And female farmers are the first to feel the harsh impact of climate change. The climate crisis undermines production stability, increases heat-related illnesses during work, and destroys stable income bases, pushing female farmers into economic vulnerability. It is the socially disadvantaged who disproportionately suffer and face consequences of the crisis. The Korean government has introduced the Joint Farm Manager System to guarantee the legal status of female farmers 8 years ago. But few female farmers have participated in the program due to a lack of publicity. Recently, however, more local governments have changed the way to provide allowances to farmers from household-based to individual-based one. So, this change has led to a significant increase in female farmers participating as joint managers of farms. It shows that even a great system is pointless without effective policy implementation. With the system, we offer customized education for female farmers to enhance their capability as professional agricultural managers. Women's labor is now recognized as equal to their male partners. We are also working to improve access to agricultural machinery by making it more user-friendly. A national health checkup system has been established to address diseases unique to female farmers caused by long labor hours. We are striving to expand the strong social safety net, as most female farmers suffer from muscle and bone diseases. Special health screenings, especially for them, was introduced. Initially aimed at those 65 and older, there is now a push to lower the age requirement to 45, recognizing the importance of early health management. Of course, the government covers these costs. Efforts are also underway to strengthen our social safety net. We see these initiatives as crucial for improving the health of female farmers and ensuring that they lead dignified lives. Honorable delegates, women's sustainability is fundamental to the humanities' sustainability. Tackling gender inequality and actively responding to the climate crisis is essential for humanities' sustainability. Let us all work together to empower women who are vulnerable to both climate and economic challenges. So let's eliminate all kinds of discrimination against women. Thank you so much.
Obrigada, Mrs. Lee. E convido a Arábia Saudita.
Thank you. Now I invite the representative from the Saudi Arabia to use the floor.
Thank you. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Alia Al-Dahlawi. It's my great pleasure today to address you on the transformative journey that my country, Saudi Arabia, is undergoing with their Vision 2030. This ambitious strategy is not only about economic diversification, but also about creating society that embraces equality, empower women, and combat racism. One of the fundamental goals of the vision is to promote equality across all sectors of society. By reducing our reliance on oil, we are opening new industries such as tourism, entertainment, technology, thus creating diverse job opportunity for everyone. This inclusive economic growth ensures that every citizen, regardless of gender or background, has a chance to contribute to and benefit from our nation's prosperity. A key pillar of Vision 2030 is the empowerment and enhancement of women's economic roles. The Kingdom has raised its target for Saudi women participation in the labor market to 40% by 2030, after the recent percentage of women participation is 35%, exceeding the target that is required by the Vision 2030 by 2030. Labor laws have been amended to provide more flexible work environment for women and ensure their economic and social rights. Enhance opportunity for education and training, such as vocational and technical training programs and various educational initiatives. Several initiatives have been launched to support women entrepreneurs, such as financing programs, technical support, and mentoring to enable women to start and manage their businesses. Many sectors have been open to women, such as trade, engineering, sport, justice, technology, and more. Companies are encouraged to employ women through incentive policies. Our campaign aims to change the stereotypical image of women's roles in society and raise awareness of importance of their economic participation and aim to boost the women leadership and decision-making roles. The government have made a significant effort to achieve complementary equality between men and women in various fields. Our country is committed to several international agreements and has issued royal decrees and reviewed amended legislation that uphold the principle of justice for both men and women. These laws prohibit any discrimination, such as the wage programs, the unemployment protection system, and enhance women's rights through support and care programs. This effort contributes to enhancing the role of Saudi women in the economic development and provide an encouraging environment for achieving their financial and economic independence. Despite the progress we have made in the last few years, we recognize the challenges and the obstacle, of course, that everybody has that lies ahead. And however, we must continue to uphold our value, ensure equality and economic autonomy for women, and maintain the eradication of racism as a central focus for our nation's transformation. Thank you, and I would like to thank the Brazilian authority for all the hosting this meeting and the organization. Thank you very much.
Obrigada por sua contribuição, Mrs. Alia.
Thank you for your contribution, Mrs. Alia. Now I would like to invite the representative of India, Senhora Kalpana Saini. Namaste. Prezada Presidente, caras colegas.
Over the years, India has been witnessing a rapid transition from women's development to women-led development. To this end, the government has adopted a multi-pronged approach to address issues of women with gender budgeting, acting as a powerful tool. The principle of gender equality is enshrined in the Constitution of India. Several laws have also been enacted to further strengthen the Constitution mandate. It is noteworthy that India is presently one of the 15 countries in the world with a woman head of the state. Besides, globally, India has the largest absolute number of elected women representatives in local government. In order to promote a gender-just society in India, several steps have been taken over the years. A comprehensive body of women-centric laws have been enacted, such as the Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act 2005, the Sexual Harassment of Women Act 2013, the Code on Wages 2019, which prevents discrimination in an establishment on the ground of gender in matters relating to wages, and the Code on Social Security 2020, which provides for enhancement in paid maternity leave from 12 weeks to 26 weeks, provision for mandatory crèche facility, etc. There are also various women-centric initiatives aimed at encouraging participation of more women in government services like provision of child care leave, women employees. Towards financial independence of women, there are schemes relating to financial inclusion of citizens, under which there are more than 500 million beneficiaries, of which close to 280 million, constituting 55.6% of the total beneficiaries, are women. In addition, there are various farmers' welfare schemes which nurture an enabling environment for women farmers. Through these initiatives, government is improving access of women farmers to productive resources. Besides, under a government's pledge scheme, about 9 million women self-help groups, having nearly 100 million female members, are transforming the rural landscape with regard to women's economic empowerment. In India, there is an increased presence of women in public life. More than 3 decades ago, amendments to the Constitution was made providing for reservation of 1/3 of the seats for women in the local governing bodies. A milestone in this journey was achieved on 28 September 2023 with passing of the Women Reservation Bill 2023. We sought to reserve 1/3 of the total number of seats for women in the lower house of the Parliament and state legislative assemblies. In our Parliament, efforts are being made on a continuing basis to make it a gender-sensitive institution. We have a joint committee on empowerment of women constituted for the first time in 1997. A major step taken in recent times is the inclusion of 13 women members in the panel of vice chairpersons, in addition to the existing panel. In another move towards ensuring gender parity, women officers of the Rajya Sabha Secretariat recently started performing the table duties in the House. In conclusion, to bring about gender equality, a concerted effort at the national, regional, and international level is required to be made. The respective governments and parliaments need to bring about requisite laws, strategies, and plans, while there is a need for greater synergy of policies among the nations. Increased knowledge sharing and mutual learning of good practices among all countries of the world on issues of gender equality, women's empowerment would go a long way in tackling inequalities and promoting economic empowerment. Thank you.
Agradeço e convido agora para
Thank you. Now I want to invite
Brasil,
Senator
professora Dorinha
Professor
Seabra.
Dorinha Seabra.
Boa tarde a todos.
Good afternoon.
De maneira muito especial, eu gostaria de fazer uma
In a very
homenagem
special manner,
a
I'd like
todas
to pay
as que
tribute
já
to
nos
all
antecederam
who spoke
e
before
criaram
us and
condições
all who
para
lived
que nós
before us and
pudéssemos
paved
reivindicar,
the way for us
obter
to
espaço
claim
na política,
and have
no mundo do
spaces in
trabalho,
politics, in the
na economia,
workforce,
na
in the economy,
ciência,
in
na arte.
sciences, and in the
Mulheres
arts.
que lutaram pelo
Women
direito
that
ao
have strived
voto,
for
ao
the right to
trabalho e à
vote,
própria
for
independência.
work and also for
A
independence
todas elas,
itself.
os
To all
nossos
of them,
sinceros
my
agradecimentos
sincere
e homenagens.
gratitude and
Gostaria
homage.
de
I would like
colocar da
to
importância
state the
desse
importance
evento
of this
aqui
event
no
that we are
Brasil
being part of today here
e
in
com uma
Brazil,
representação tão variada
with such a
de
varied
países que, a
representation of
partir da
representatives,
sua
with
história,
countries that throughout their
têm
histories
construído
have
o
been
aumento da participação da mulher na política,
more
no
participation of
mundo
women
do
in politics,
trabalho,
in
nas
the workforce,
posições
in
ligadas à
the positions that are
economia,
linked
à
to
saúde
economy,
e à
health, care,
educação.
and education.
A questão da disparidade
The
econômica
economic
entre
disparity
homens e
that exists
mulheres
between men
é
and women
antiga,
is
sendo um dos
long-lasting,
pilares da falta de
being
equidade entre
one
os
of the
gêneros.
pillars of
Sem
the
capacidade
disparity between
econômica, a
genders.
autonomia das mulheres
Without
resta
economic
prejudicada ou
freedom,
inexistente em muitos
women's
países. Em
autonomy
2022, o relatório da
left behind.
Organização
In 2012,
Internacional do
a
Trabalho
report from the World Work Organization
alertou que a média
warned us
salarial
that the
entre
average
diferença
salary
entre homens e
difference
mulheres
between
era
men and women
de
was
20%.
of 20%.
No Brasil, nós
In
atuamos para
Brazil,
que
we
houvesse
worked for
uma
that to
legislação
be
específica
a specific
de
legislation
redução da
for the
desigualdade
reduction of this
salarial
inequality
entre
in
homens e
wages between men
mulheres.
and women.
O Fórum Econômico
The
Mundial
World
também
Economic
divulga
Forum
que
also
apenas
highlights that only
37% de mulheres
37% of women
ocupam posição de
take
liderança.
leadership positions.
Vários avanços foram
Several
alcançados em muitos
advancements were made in
países,
several of the
não só
countries,
na estrutura
not only
pública,
in the
mas também
public
na
structure, but
iniciativa
also in the
privada.
private initiative.
Não nos
Private
enganemos
sector. Let's
que no
not
mundo
be fooled
capitalista,
that
reduzir
in a
ganhos
capitalist world,
econômicos
to
de um
reduce
grupo
economic gains from a
significa
certain group
diminuir a
means to
capacidade de ação.
decrease their
Retardar o progresso
action
financeiro das
possibilities.
mulheres é
To
atrasar
slow down women's economic development is to also slow down any country's development in all aspects of
Nesse
life.
momento, como este
Now,
em que
in a
direitos
moment such as
antes
this, in which
assegurados
rights
estão
that
sob
used to be ensured
ameaça,
are now
a
being
nossa
threatened,
luta,
our
a luta
fight,
em
the
todos os
fight that we have
países
in all
para
the
garantir
countries to
condições
ensure
de educação, de
education
formação,
conditions,
de qualificação
qualification,
faz
and also
toda a
training
diferença.
makes a lot of
Vale
difference.
ressaltar
It's
que a
worthwhile to
sociedade como
know that
todo
society as a
ganha com
whole
a inclusão
gains
feminina.
from the
Em
inclusion of women.
2018, um estudo do
In
FMI
2018,
indicava que alguns
a
países
study by
poderiam
the
ter uma elevação
FMI
de
showed that Brazil could
35%
have a
no seu
35%
produto
increase in
interno
its
bruto se houvesse a
GDP
eliminação
if
da
there was the
disparidade entre
elimination of the
gêneros.
disparity between genders in
Combater
that
as
regard.
desigualdades,
So,
promover a
to
autonomia
tackle these
econômica
disparities and promote
são
economic
fundamentais não apenas para
autonomy is
alcançar a
fundamental not only to
igualdade
achieve
substancial entre os
substantial
sexos, mas também
equality
para o
between genders, but
desenvolvimento
also for the socio-economic
sustentável.
development that is
Quando as
sustainable.
mulheres têm acesso
When women have
igualitário e
equal
oportunidades
access and also
educacionais,
equal
emprego digno, recursos
education
financeiros,
opportunities,
elas
dignified
não
work and
apenas,
financial resources, they not only
não apenas melhoram sua
make
própria
their
qualidade de
own
vida,
lives
mas
better,
também
but
contribuem
also they
para a melhoria
contribute
da
for the
economia
improvement of the
local e
local
nacional.
and national
Então,
economies.
investir na capacidade
So to
e na
invest in the
formação de
training and
mulheres
qualification
não é
of women
apenas um
is
imperativo
not just a
moral,
moral
mas uma
imperative,
estratégia
but also an
inteligente
intelligent
para
strategy
alcançar progresso
for reaching
equitativo e
an
sustentável
equitable
em
and
todas
sustainable
as
development
esferas
for all
da
of the
vida
spheres
social e
in
econômica.
social and economic lives.
Reduzir a pobreza e a
To
fome
reduce
são
poverty
estudos que
and
mostram
hunger,
que o empoderamento da mulher
there are
faz
studies that
toda
show
a
that women
diferença.
empowerment
Por isso
makes
nós
the entire difference in
defendemos
that regard.
investir na
That's why we
educação
insist that
e na
investing in
qualificação
education
de
and qualification of
mulheres,
women is fundamental.
promover a igualdade
To promote
nas
equality
oportunidades de trabalho,
in work opportunities,
salários
also
justos e condições de
fair
trabalho
wages and
decentes e
decent work
oportunidade para a
conditions, and
progressão
also the
nas
opportunity for
carreiras.
progressing in their
Combater a
careers,
violência contra
to
as
fight the
mulheres, a
violence
violência
against
física,
women,
sexual,
may that be
psicológica,
physical,
que impedem o
psychological, or
empoderamento
moral
de mulheres.
violences, which stops
Mudar os
women's
estereótipos de
empowerment,
gênero.
and also to
É
change
preciso
gender
desconstruir a
stereotypes.
ideia
It is
de que as
necessary
mulheres
to
são responsáveis
deconstruct the
apenas
idea that
pelos
women are only
cuidados domésticos,
in charge
ou
of
seja,
domestic
incentivar
chores.
todo o
In other words,
processo
to
de
incentivize the
formação.
whole
No
qualification
Brasil,
process,
o
education
parlamento tem
process. In
colocado
Brazil, a
como
parliament
meta
has been
principal
setting as their main goal
construir
to make legislation so there is the strengthening of opportunities for qualification, training, and also funding policies along with public and private banks. This is a debate that the Brazilian Parliament has been taking forward and has been moving forward with that. Along with the civil society and public structure, the private institution and also society. This is the action that the Chamber of Deputies and also the Senate, with the participation of men and women who believe and advocate for Brazil, is what they're aiming for. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Senator Dorinha. We now invite to use the floor our delegate from Italy, Ms. Anarita.
Hello. Rights, equality and freedom. When talking about the critical issues women face in building their own working careers, one should never forget these three goals: respect for rights, protection of equality, defense of freedom. They call it the glass ceiling, and already the choice of such a seemingly delicate image hides instead the pitfalls of a much harsher and unbreakable reality. It is the invisible but solid barrier that prevents women from reaching top positions in their careers, despite their talent and commitment. In Italy, only 53% of women aged 15 to 64 are employed, compared to 70.6% of men. Among working women, 31.4% are forced into involuntary part-time, compared to 7.4% of men, a sign of the difficulties in reconciling work and private life. Among women aged 25 to 34, female employment is at 57% compared to 74.9% of men. The gender pay gap places Italy in the Global Gender Gap Report 2023 at the 79th rank. Women still earn less than men, even when they perform the same jobs. The World Economic Forum predicts that wage parity will not be achieved until 2154. The battle against the glass ceiling is thus a battle of civilization. We should understand that gender parity is not only a noble objective, but a social and economic need. Releasing women's potential means releasing our civilization. The instruments are coming our way at the international and national levels. Goal 5 of the United Nations 2030 Agenda focuses on discrimination, on physical and psychological violence, including sexual violence, on domestic work, and sexual and reproductive health. In Italy, on the other hand, the government announced the launch of the National Strategy for Gender Equality 21-26 as part of the National Plan for Recovery and Resilience in order to support women's empowerment through direct interventions or support for employment and entrepreneurship, the enhancement of STEM skills, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, and the consolidation of a modern welfare system that allows for a satisfactory work-life balance. We enacted the Equal Opportunities Code, which provides for several tools to reduce the gender gap, including the establishment of the National Committee for the Implementation of the Principles of Equal Treatment and Equal Opportunity for Workers, which introduced positive actions into our legal system, aimed at fostering women's employment and achieving substantive equality between men and women in the workplace. In November 2023, the Minister for Equal Opportunity intervened decisively, giving birth to the Code of Self-Discipline intended for businesses, which is called the Code for Businesses in Favor of Maternity, aiming at creating a cultural and economic climate for collaboration between employer and employees regarding the issue of maternity, so that maternity can be reconciled with work. Italy introduced the gender budgeting, ensuring that public spending takes gender equality into account, a perspective that aims at identifying resources for equal opportunity policies and assessing the impact of budgetary policies of men and women, increasing transparency on the allocation of resources. We are striving to promote an inclusive culture and women's leadership programs, also on the front of entrepreneurship, with the creation of pink startups. To achieve so, however, we need to rethink the welfare system so that it can facilitate work-life balance. Corporate daycare centers, equally distributed parental leave, and flexible working hours are measures that can support working women. Because freedom is also and above all achieved thanks to the liberation from needs, as we have experienced in Italy with the introduction of the freedom income for women victims of violence. An economic contribution. The freedom income is an economic contribution intended to guarantee housing and personal autonomy, which supports women to rebuild their lives and be reintegrated into the socio-economic fabric. Eliminating the gender gap requires an integrated approach involving institutions, businesses, and civil society. Policies must be concrete and targeted, and above all, the collective mindset must change with a new education and a new culture regarding women's role in society. We have a responsibility that we have to take on regarding our role. Our purpose should be that of eliminating discrimination and increasing women's participation in decision-making processes. Thank you.
Obrigada, senhora Ana Rita. Convido para fazer uso da palavra a representante da Alemanha.
Now the representative of Germany.
Fellow parliamentarians, it's a great honor to be in Maceió together with all these inspiring women. My name is Susanne Hirl and I'm a member of the German Bundestag and member of the Legal Affairs Committee. Thank you for hosting the first female conference of the P20. Almost 50% of the population are women. It's therefore a matter of course that we hold this conference. I believe that women can make a difference, but we also have to bear in mind that only together we can tackle the existing challenges and find good solutions, women together with men. Germany has an employment rate among women aged 20 to 64 of 76.6%. The employment rate for men is around 84%. This does not concern the distinction between full-time and part-time work. Germany has many regulations to eliminate inequalities. I would like to highlight some. In Germany, over 50% of women have a high school diploma. Approximately 50% are university graduates, and approximately 45% have a doctorate. But 88.4% of C4 professorships are held by men. Concerning public policies, Germany has a funding guideline, Innovative Women in Focus, for improved opportunities for the participation of women in science, research, and innovation. This program was founded with up to 36 million euro. In order to ensure equal pay and pay equity and closing the gender pay gap, Germany implemented the Pay Transparency Act. The obligation not to discriminate in terms of pay and to eliminate proven gender-based discrimination applies to all companies and employers in Germany. Female employees in companies with more than 200 employees have the right to receive information on the criteria and procedures of determining pay and on the salaries of colleagues in comparable positions. The Pay Transparency Act was evaluated in 2023, and specifically the evaluation shows that employees are still not sufficiently aware of the Act and its instruments. Employees are still rather reluctant to make use of their individual right to information. Even with this law, the unadjusted gender pay gap in Germany was around 18%. And even with the same formal qualifications and otherwise the same characteristics, the pay gap still is 6%. There is a long way still in Germany to go to equal pay and pay equity. In Germany, anti-discrimination measures are enshrined in various laws designed to prevent and punish discrimination in different areas of life. The German Constitution contains key provisions on anti-discrimination. Article 3 of our Constitution guarantees equality before the law and prohibits discrimination on the basis of gender, descent, race, language, homeland and origin, faith, religious or political views. It calls on the state to promote the actual implementation of equal rights for women and men and to eliminate existing disadvantages. One of these laws that concretizes the Constitution, known as the Anti-Discrimination Act, aims to prevent or eliminate discrimination on various grounds. The Anti-Discrimination Act applies to labor and civil law. It protects against discrimination in employment, relationships, in access to employment, in career advancement, in vocational training and working conditions. Those affected can assert claims to injunctive relief, removal and compensation. In addition to all legal regulation, it is necessary that we encourage girls and women to appear self-confident and to have the self-confidence to be able to make things happen and to implement them. Finally, I would like to quote Angela Merkel, the former German Chancellor. She said, "I learned that success is not a question of gender. It's about trusting yourself, being brave, and not letting stereotypes limit you. Let us send a strong signal with this conference and be role models." Thank you very much.
Obrigada, Suzane, por suas palavras.
Thank you, Susanna, for your words and your contributions. I invite to use the word now, representative from Indonesia.
Convido mais uma vez para fazer uso da palavra.
I once again invite our delegate from Indonesia to use the floor. Okay, I believe she's absent. In that regard, we move on to Mexico with Ms. Amalia Garcia to provide her contributions with her kind words.
Senhora Amália Garcia.
Mrs. Amalia Garcia.
Gracias. Agradezco a Brasil su anfitrionía y también la decisión de esta cumbre parlamentaria, de parlamentarias del G20, de abordar temas tan importantes para nuestra vida. Joseph Stiglitz, Premio Nobel de Economía, ha dicho que la desigualdad
Inequality is not unavoidable, so it depends on the people who are making decisions, that is to say, of ourselves, that this to change. So today there will be a structural change which fills the basis for the empowerment and the economic autonomy of women. For that matter, we must focus on the very groundy terrain that traps us down in our homes. We'll have to say that the economic value of what we're accomplishing every and each day is not recognized fully. It has been with Beijing for the World Conference that only began to propose that the satellite national accounts must be measured up to working value at home, the domiciles. In the case of Mexico, this is equivalent to 27% of the GDP. That is to say, it has an economic value. Also, it seems to be essential to highlight that during the pandemics, despite the invisibilization of this work, it was made clear to me that while it was closed, thousands and thousands of companies were shut down, thousands and thousands of jobs were lost because of the COVID-19. Nearly everything was stagnated. That was the work of the women in homes, which kept on the humanity marching and moving forward. This work is invisible. That is to say that today we have this goal to see that how is sustained women's work while they are guaranteeing and making sure that not only the continuation of life, but not just the daily reproduction of the labor force. Because of COVID-19, thousands of jobs were lost. Women were left and abandoned. Today, what we require it is that not only to return as public space for economic autonomy, but a substantial change in access of women to equal pay and just pay, to contract, to working conditions. That is to say, decent work and jobs. That is why we require not only to guarantee that, but the national states and countries to recognize budgets with a gender perspective in such a way that they must focus on what can guarantee the access of women to well-paid jobs with higher education, with the expertise and knowledge of the 21st century, including with this education and training. That would be insufficient if it's not covered in the structural matter, which is the great amount of time and effort the women dedicate to the daily chores. Women from all social strata all over the planet, we are the ones who share a substantial poverty of time. We don't have access to our own time because we are dedicating to the care tasks. That is why also the state must guarantee our right to economic autonomy and to decent work, to our full development, so displacing the system in each national country of care in such a way that despite as we advance the movement that we call it the 3 R's, R of recognizing the value that we use in our homes, second R to reduce these tests that we conduct. Third, it is to share. That is to say, we have to distribute among the state, companies, societies, and in families in plural, not only to women. Only in this way, by putting the care policy in the center, not as a social policy alone, but as the policy in capital that will change humanity's life. And eventually, 50% will be able to incorporate it to have economic autonomy, full development of access to our own time. That is to say, a structural fund with a policy of care. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Amalia. I want to invite now the representative of Italy, Mrs. Valentina.
Thank you. Good afternoon to everyone. Tackling inequalities, overcoming the gender gap in employment and economic empowerment is a fundamental step in women's lives. In the world and in my country, Italy, this goal still has a long way to go, although we have made very many progresses. According to the Global Gender Gap Index of 2024, that was published a few years ago, Italy now is at 76th place in gender gap. And even the data concerning time devoted to care activities show that this still falls to women culturally in 71% of cases. The gap in the economic participation and the job opportunities for women is what we have to tackle. And gender equality is one of the goals of the 2030 objectives. Europe has created, after the pandemic, to give support to the countries, the Next Generation Plan, in which gender parity is fundamental. Italy is a big beneficiary of this fund with the plan of resilience and recovery, which is an important opportunity for women because it proposes itself to sustain women and their jobs with interventions capable of generating an immediate impact on the lives of women and acting on the mechanisms on the basis of the formation of gender inequalities, with actions that can generate the social infrastructures, the services of care that can reduce the charge of work for women. Another theme that is very important is formation, is education. According to ISTA data published on the 8th March of 2024, among female graduates aged between 25 and 34 years, female graduates in scientific and technological disciplines are 17.6 compared to 33.7% of men. All this makes it necessary to increase specific interventions at different points in the pathway to building one's independence, from measures for the self-esteem, from services of education of good quality, and programs for job placement as an integrated strategy. The economic autonomy of women is an instrumental tool for the prevention of domestic violence, the violence of men against women. This is why in Italy we have the freedom income intended for women victims of violence. It's important to make governments increasingly aware of this theme so that they can know that about the empowerment of women and the possibility of women to get out of violent situations. To ensure the concrete implementation of our policies, the state budget in Italy is seen, there was an introduction of gender perspective. I was a mayor in Sesto Levante near Genoa, and it was the first city in Italy to introduce this gender perspective. In these 2 years, several legislative proposals have been made in Parliament to support women's economic, social and family independence. Compulsory paid week leave, enhancement of children's services, introduction of fair wages by law, because unfair wages particularly affect women. In the recovery plan, there is a mandatory 30% hiring of women. To eliminate the gender pay gap, we need to resolve all the profound causes and give access to to women for the work. Only well-paid jobs can give autonomy to women, and the liberty of women passes through their economic.
Obrigada, senhora Valentina, e convido para fazer uso da palavra a representante de Portugal, senhora Patrícia Faro.
Boa tarde a todos e a todas. Senhora deputada, quem irá falar sobre este tema será a minha colega da delegação, Emília Siqueira. Muito obrigada.
I appreciate that.
Agradeço.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Ms. Patricia. Good afternoon, everyone. Yes, I thought I would be speaking later on today, due to the fact that I was registered to be speaking at a later moment, but regardless, really, we should focus on the pay gap issue. In Portugal, as well as in Europe, there is the National Day for the Pay Equality, which is the Equal Pay Day, which doesn't have a fixed date for its celebration. However, in the year 2023, we have signaled on the 14th of November, it was determined that this would be the official day. Those who are not so aware of this date, why 14th of November? Because that's exactly when women stop, that's how much they stop, that's when they stop earning as much as men throughout the rest of the year. They work the same amount of days on the year, but they earn until the 14th of November only in comparison. So what do we need to do? We have to do effective work for the rights in the workplace for women as well. And the 48 days in the remaining year is not just about the pay gap, but also all the work that women, after they finish their work shift, they have to, or they are impelled to be doing something else, which is the social load that they have on them, which is to provide unpaid work. This is one of the major challenges that we have to be faced with in Europe, in Portugal, but also in a city in the world. In Portugal, we have taken a long ways in the fight against the pay gap. However, I mean, for all the colleagues who are watching us now for having this debate, I have the numbers, the figures here. In 2010, the pay gap, the mean pay gap between men and women was of 17.9%. In 2021, the difference was of 13.1%, so there was a great development in that regard. And currently, we are at even lower numbers. However, they're not still completely determined, and I cannot share those official numbers with you at this point. However, when we get to the top of the career paths, the most demanding careers, the most well-paid careers, they don't show the reality whatsoever. The pay gap can get up to 26% between men and women in higher positions. And we have a particularly even worse situation in countries such as Portugal, because the coming generations, specifically the younger individuals, younger women, they usually have more education than men. We have more graduated women, more women going through master's courses and also PhD than men. Regardless, this difference between men and women that we have in their education, they have a 26% pay gap in the top positions. However, with regards of business management positions, well, as was spoken about here earlier today, we have this parity law, which makes it so that women should be in the council, the boards of council in the companies. So it is true, yes, we do have this law. However, in the big enterprises and companies, the largest economic groups in Portugal, we only have one woman, who is the chairwoman of the administration council, and that makes a whole lot of difference. Still, with a slight detail, we have a woman in the administration council because she's the daughter of the previous chairman of the council. Yes, she got her position because of her competence. However, we must ask, maybe other circumstances led her to be there. Could she be there elsewhere, in another way? We have colleagues here that we have been sharing this debate with today, and I speak this throughout the years. I have been saying this. Women don't need disparity laws. They don't need positive discrimination, but it's only about competence. But when it's about choices, sometimes choices are arbitrary. They're in the hands of men. And yes, there needs to be a positive discrimination in that sense. And we could only end this discrimination on the long term if in the decision-making councils, in the moments when it truly becomes a moment to make the decision, women should be there. They must be there as equals and with the same force and power that men have. Otherwise, we'll continue to have women and girls which have better education, better qualifications, but still earning less. Several measures were adopted in our country, however. We could name some of them, specifically the conciliation between family and work at time, the right to take time off. So that means that after the work shift ends, she cannot be contacted by her employer. And we all know that that affects women more than men because they cannot be contacted because of their families after the work shift is over. This was an important step. And also the remote work, it was expanded quite a lot. And women that require to look after a child that has a health condition, maybe a daughter with a disability or a relative, a member of the family that has a disability, and also the victims of domestic violence, they also face this issue. And with that said, we all must pave a long road ahead of us, and also to influence and incentivize our girls and women that they should use the technological tools, because indeed they should be part. Thank you very much. It was a great joy for me to be in Brazil this time, and it's such a great work that is being conducted here. Thank you very much. We appreciate your contribution, Ms. Amelia. And now I invite to the floor our delegate from Norway, Ms. Linda Monsen-Merkesdal.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Linda, and I'm from the Norwegian Parliament. And thank you for the opportunity. Dear colleagues, many believe that Norway is one of the richest countries in the world because of our oil and gas. But that is only part of the story. The main reason for our wealth is women's right, education, and women's participation in labor force. In fact, had it not been for strong women union and changing laws to an inclusive labor force, the Norwegian economic would have looked completely different. Between 1972 and 2013, the number of women achieving in labor force doubled. Research showed that since 1972, target politics to increase growth in employment among women has added $100 billion to the Norwegian GDP. Politics promotes women economics empowerment, and our most successful economic political countries can be implemented. Women's employment can be driven force for inclusive growth. Over average across countries, long-run GDP per capita would be almost 20% higher if gender employment gaps were closed. Dear colleagues, according to the World Economic Forum, Norway is the most inclusive economy in the world. Norway is not perfect. We need to do a lot more. For example, equal pay for equal work, make it easier for women to work full-time. We have changed law to tackle the gender gap in salaries, and we are demanding that all public positions will be advertised as full-time. At the same time, the government invests in affordable and accessible childcare and full-time school. This is some of the keys to balance care tasks in the home with employees. Norway became the first country in the world to impose a gender quota to raise the proportion of women in public limited company boards to 30%. This quota has led to more professional recruiting process, better candidates, and make boards able to take better decisions. Achievement gender equality is the future. We cannot meet the challenges in our world currently facing food security, conflicts, and climate change without full equal participation of women, men, girls, and boys. Women's economy ownership, control, and leadership is a good innovation and entrepreneurship. Norway targets financial support for programs for women in male-dominated sectors such as energy, information and communication technology, and public administration. The priority is reflected in Norway's development in aid. Everyone stands to gain when women have equal job opportunities. It enhances productivity, boosts the GDP, and increases public tax revenues. Progressive gender-based tax policy are key. Specific measures like tax credits for low income and adjustment tax to brackets can help us reduce poverty among women and girls. Earmarked tax dedication for caregiving tasks and expensive have provide to easy burden and women. And dare all, I also firmly believe that we as MP must lay down conditions for how our businesses operate home and abroad. We can talk to each other, set demands, make law to increase human rights and equality when companies from our country invest abroad. We can set the standard. Norway have made a new framework. It's called Norwegian Transparency Act. The Transparency Act is a new national legally binding instrument to promote responsible business conducting for Norway companies operating global and complex business environment. Its purpose is to promote enterprise, respect for fundamental human rights and decent working conditions in connecting with the production of goods and provision of service, and ensure the general public access to information regarding how enterprises address adverse impact on fundamental human rights and decent working conditions. The Transparency Act can be important tools for several countries because it sets demand to the Norwegian companies that invest abroad. I have hopes that this may lead to more empowerment for women, education, and women's participation in labour force, because transparency on all levels in companies and in political make it easier to do the right thing. So to all the leaders with power in politics and business, we often search for new resources to improve our economy. My appeal is, stop searching. We are already sitting on a gold mine. It's called women. Thank you.
Obrigada. O uso da palavra a senhora Paula Moeda, representando Cabo.
Thank you for your contribution. I'd like to invite Paula Moeda from Cape Verde.
Very good afternoon, everyone, and thank you very much. I greet specifically our hostesses for the beautiful welcoming, and I also extend my appreciation to all who are here for the opportunity to share all of our experiences and to be able to discuss such a crucial theme, which is to fight inequalities and to promote economic autonomy of women. Cape Verde is an archipelago in Africa, which was made out of a volcano with many small isles located in the Atlantic Ocean, very close to the western African coast, with a population of around 588,000 inhabitants. In Cape Verde, as in many parts of the world, women have been facing historical challenges in the search, in the strive for gender equality and also economic autonomy. It's important financial and human resources have been invested for the reduction of the disparity between men and women, with the regards of education, qualification, health, and participation of women in the political realm and also economic realm. Even though we have been progressing significantly, the inequalities, they persist, and they demand a continuous and vigorous action plan. However, there is no doubt that in that regard, Cape Verde is one of the countries that is most successful in Africa in that sense. The Cape Verdean women, they develop an active role in the economy of the country, contributing significantly for the development and also the economic growth. However, in spite of all those advancements, there's still remnants of difficulties and challenges to be overcome. Statistics show that the unemployment rates of women are higher than the unemployment rate of men, particularly present in the undervalued jobs, more precarious and with lesser wages. So there's not such an equal split in the household activities or chores, which makes the Cape Verdean women to take up the works or jobs with less wages, in which they cannot progress in their career all that much. Consequently, women are less present in the workforce, they have less access to social care, social protection, they receive a mean wage lower than men. We are slightly under 590 million inhabitants, of which 53% of men and 49.7% are women. These figures, they show an unbalance which is almost perfect between the genders in our society, 50.3 and 49%. However, we still see a challenging reality that we're faced with regard to the representativeness in the household activities and also the participation in the workforce. Women represent 55% of the household leaders. We see one of the major challenges which are faced by our population, which is, for example, for the access and for the permanence in the workforce, which are the responsibilities that they have at home, and also the caregiving. These factors, they are hindering significantly that aspect. And also the participation rate in unpaid work is extremely high between women, reaching up to 92%. The Cape Verdean government has been implementing policies which have the purpose of decreasing, reducing these inequalities, such as the microcredit programs for entrepreneurial women, professional qualification, and also empowerment programs have been showing promising results. However, it is crucial for the policies to be expanded and improved for them to have a wider impact. Another important aspect for the promotion of economic autonomy for women is the development of a true economy of caregiving, such as, for instance, this sector, which is so neglected, is essential for women to be able to participate actively in the workplace. Another challenge that we face is a high rate of informal jobs that makes many women outside of the social security system. That means that several of these women don't have access to essential benefits such as maternity leave, medical assistance, and also pensions. My fellow companions, ladies and gentlemen, in this journey, we must continue to work tirelessly for us to eliminate the gender inequalities and also to promote economic autonomy for women in each of their countries and also in the world. Thank you very much.
Agradecemos sua contribuição, senhora Paula.
I would like to acknowledge that the representative of China didn't feel good, had to leave the room, but I want to say I will ask the representatives of the embassy to read her speech.
Distinguished Chairman and colleagues, women are the creators of both material and spiritual civilizations. Empowering women is not only vital for their own personal development, but also crucial for fostering family harmony, social cohesion, national progress, and civilizational advancement. China highly prioritizes the promotion of gender equality and women's economic empowerment. At the Global Summit of Women 2015 and the high-level meeting of the UN General Assembly commemorating the 25th anniversary of the Fourth World Conference on Women, President Xi Jinping advocated for several important propositions. These include promoting synchronized development of women in economic and social spheres, actively safeguarding women's rights, fostering a harmonious and inclusive social culture, and enhancing global initiatives for women. We are committed to implementing the fundamental national policy of gender equality and adhering to the National Action Plan aimed at promoting comprehensive women's development. This plan involves legislating, enforcing, adjudicating, and abiding by laws to respect and protect women's human rights in all facts. Simultaneously, we aim to secure women's legitimate rights in health, education, employment, social security, marriage, and family affairs, thereby promoting extensive female participation in decision-making and governance processes. Our efforts have improved the livelihoods of nearly 50 million women through development, achieving targeted poverty alleviation, and supporting their engagement in cutting-edge sectors such as science and technology innovation, while continuously elevating their economic status. China supports the international community in forming a consensus and making progress toward eliminating discrimination against women and achieving gender equality. We call upon the international community to uphold the spirit of the United Nations Fourth World Conference on Women in 1995, accelerate the implementation of the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action, and rigorously adhere to the Convention on the eliminating of all forms of discrimination against women, aiming to make women's goals an early success of the UN 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. China supports the G20 Working Group on Empowerment of Women for promoting international communication and practical cooperation on women's issues, thereby safeguarding women's legitimate rights and better contributing to gender equality and the comprehensive development of women. China has promoted the Juncao technology in over 100 countries to assist women in entrepreneurship and increasing income, and has supported the implementation of 100 women's health projects and happy school projects in developing countries, providing education and training for women. China stands ready to collaborate with the international community to continuously safeguard women's rights, remove obstacles, and create an enabling environment to support women in achieving outstanding lives. Moreover, we aim to accelerate the implementation of the United Nations 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and jointly build a fair, just, democratic, harmonious, and inclusive global community with a shared future for humanity. Thank you.
Convidamos para fazer uso da palavra a senhora Fabiana Martins.
Now we'd like to invite Fabiana Martins, President of Mercosur.
Gracias. En esta segunda intervención, agradecer el contexto de esta reunión, la primera reunión de mujeres parlamentarias.
In the context of this meeting, the first meeting of parliamentary women, we feel the responsibility that in this country, among the 280 million of people that are represented in the parliament, each and every one of the inhabitants of Brazil are inside this representation. As women in leadership, we have the commitment and responsibility of promulgating policies that fight for gender equality policies. We must be aware that our decisions and actions have a significant impact on millions of people's lives. The lack of economical balance is a reality that affects lots of women. And when I talk about lack of balance and not inequality, it's because we need to be aware that the economical and financial system is neutral. What we need to fight for is women's rights, financing, flexible financing, credit opportunities, so that women have access into their context, because equality gives us a vulnerable situation. This is what we believe in our internal debate. We are never going to be equal. We can be different and we can take care of our differences. In this sense, I urge you to work together in order to promote legislations that carry on the formation, the training of women that are free and independent in the way that we empower our girls and our young women so that they believe themselves to be free and independent and inside a system. We will find that ourselves progressing. We will find ourselves in progress. Also, we need to collaborate with private entities and international organizations to create effective alliances that encourage these strategies. We need to give the floor to as many people as we can. In my case, in a regional system, in your case, in a domestic system. The cooperation among different sectors is fundamental in order to achieve significant advancements in empowerment. Empowerment is the key for us to be able to talk about other topics and know this recurring topic of autonomy, economical autonomy of women. We work in empathy, collaboration, and acknowledgement of other women's work in every area. Is also a tool to help them into their economical autonomy. And I want to share with you, as Argentina, some initiatives that women have had as meat exporters, women that have created brands such as made by a woman. The role of other women having access to those products would help their fellow workers. As parliamentary women, we have an important role. We are role models for other young women, and we must use our position, our privileged positions, in order to empower other women, giving them opportunities to grow in the professional area and to reach their goal. It doesn't matter what their goal is. Every and each one of the women are free and independent to fulfill their lives, to have fulfilled lives. And I am convinced that if we work together in order to have a significant change,
people with disabilities, the elderly with dependencies, and today the main transformation that comes from the Buenos Aires consensus, but also now it's at the ECOSOC, and we have the International Day of Care and Support on October 29 as part of its recognition, implies that we understand finally that this is not only a question of access of care and the quality of care, that is not only for those who can pay, but it's a right that everyone should have. But all of this care, non-remunerated and non-recognized work has been done by women. And now and Brazil is one of these countries, and Mexico for sure, we heard today, are putting women at the center and women's rights and autonomy at the center of these responses to become universal care systems. Of course, it's progressive, it takes time. The investment is little compared
with a return of investment and the contributions that women are doing to the economy, and is not recognized, not counted, and could be counted. And you have the time use services across your countries that are really a statistical tool to do so. So last but not least, Norway touched, the need to go beyond GDP as part of one of the criteria that also the G20 is discussing in all the international system reform. And for sure, this is something that all the feminist economists don't care, and for sure all the SDG battery we have at the table is suggesting we already have instruments to measure in a different way, and clearly considering the contribution of women to the economy through care is one of the ways to really become not only more transparent, comprehensive, and recognized. We know that increasing policies and capacity to access to care services increase women's participation in labor and women's participation in politics. So this is really a triple effect that should be seen as a benefit by all of us, women and men, because we are all part of the care redistribution. Thank you for the patience and the time.
Muito obrigada, senhora Cecília.
Thank you, Ms. Cecilia. I would like to invite now the representative of UN Women, Mrs. Ana Carolina.
Olá. Muito boa tarde,
Hello,
senhora presidenta da mesa, deputada Soraya Santos, a todas as deputadas e
to all of the
senadoras,
delegates and senators here in this room,
minhas colegas,
to my colleagues from international institutions and bodies and the UN Women. My name is Ana Carolina Querino. I'm here as an interim representative of UN Women here in Brazil. And here in this event, I am part of the delegation of the UN General Secretariat accompanying Ms. Silvia Hooks, which had to return to Brasilia due to other commitments she had. In this role, being part of UN Women is support of the Secretary General on all topics that refer to the empowerment of women and also gender equality. As such, having UN Women being an institution which was devised within the United Nations to work from a triple mandate for these actions which are referring to the rights of women. In that regard, besides, well, I won't be repeating myself and repeat what was said based on the focus here in this afternoon session by my colleague, my dear friend Cecilia Alemani, what she said. However, I'd like to take it back to one of the statements of one of the women, of the former Secretary General of the United Nations, Mr. Ban Ki-moon, as soon as the Agenda 2030 was determined, and also for Sustainable Development Goals for the state members of the UN back in 2016. When we became aware and we made a calling to place it front and center of the sustainable development, to make the contributions that women could give to this development agenda through their economic empowerment. That should be front and center. The Secretary General at the time created a high-level panel for the economic empowerment of women. And that panel, which was coordinated by the UN Women, made the recommendation and identified 7 motors or driving forces for the economic empowerment of women, not only as beneficiaries, but also as agents for the economic, the sustainable development. One of those driving forces is one of the things that was mentioned already here in several of the speeches that the ladies here made, and also specifically my colleague Cecilia, which is about the economy of caregiving, the promotion of the economy of the caregiving. Here we speak not only of the establishing of an economy of the caregiving, but also about having caregiving considered and recognized as a work, as a job, and being recognized as a decent job for the women who dedicate their time for those activities. Here I'd like to talk again about the rights for the housemaids workers, which are quite often made invisible and quite often also unvalued in relation to the formal aspect in regards to the rights that these women have, and also in comparison to the pay that they receive as well. When we speak here, even here, switching a little bit to a different driving force, which is in fact the promotion of decent work and also jobs in general, whether they're formal or informal jobs. We also speak here about the equality in pay, in wages, but also having an equal value in the work that they do, because we understand that women, specifically black women, indigenous women, and other minority groups, they don't see their activities recognized as much as other groups. Wow, time flies really here, doesn't it? So I'm trying to do a proper time management by saying that, well, what would be the other driving forces? Those would be related to ensuring corporate practices which are responsible, that promote equality, the tackling of social norms which are hindering racial and gender inequalities, to ensure equality, the access to economic assets. And here I speak of territory, lands, assets, and businesses led by women. I speak about purchases which are sensible to gender, not only budgets which are gender sensitive, but also to determine public procurements, which should be also led by women. And I also speak here of the strengthening of raising the voice and the leadership positions of women. So we speak here of equality and also parity in their participation of women, not only in politics, but also in the way that women are represented among the corporate leadership positions and also the economic world leadership positions as well. We speak of funding, not only from the gender-sensitive budgeting, but also in terms of how other macroeconomic factors have a direct and different kind of impact on women, and how we can adopt initiatives to strengthen sustainable titles and sustainable gender-related titles to improve the funding either for women-led foundations and businesses, whether it's for women, for the promotion of the public policies for the women. So, yes, should I stop now because I'm out of time? Is that right? Okay, so I'll stop now, and I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to be here contributing for this debate.
Muito obrigada, Ana Carolina.
Thanks so much, Ana Carolina. Some pieces of information. I'd like to start by thanking the participation and contribution from each and every one of you in this discussion. To say that the Chamber of Deputies has launched a campaign. We have a card in each of your seats right next to you. If you want to join us, it's written in 3 languages, Spanish, Portuguese, and English. And also a t-shirt that we are handing to you. As soon as we're finished here with this roundtable discussions, I would like to invite all of you to at least have a picture, everyone together, in this world fight for more women in positions of power. I'd like to highlight this moment now. So as soon as we undo this table, I'd like you all to please step up here in the front, and so that we can take a picture everyone together. It's called More Women Together in this Network. To say that we are, all of your contributions, they are being recorded and consolidated into a letter that we are redacting. The reason why I'm closing this session, invite you to have a collective photograph, invite you to have a cocktail, and then we would return and have the closure and also the reading of the entirety of the contribution, which is a document that will be forwarding to the G20. So, therefore, I invite all of you to take this picture together with all of us, and I declare this roundtable of discussions closed. Thank you.